Hello, everyone who's watching. Today I'm going to describe how to practice this book, Syncopation. There's a little bit of confusion sometimes when you open this book because you're only getting two notes to play on the drums. But basically, what's going on is this top line here is the melody line, which, for the sake of making it easy to learn this, you're just going to play that on the snare all the time. And the bottom line is basically whatever you're going to use to keep the beat. For most of the book, it's just, four quarter notes per bar. This is all 4/4. It's a pretty simple book as far as that goes. So, this first exercise is just really basic. It's just quarter notes on the snare and pretty much the whole book all the way through. There's only like one or two pages where it's not, but all the way through. The bottom line is just always four quarter notes. So you're just picking one thing on your foot. You can do it on the hi hat or the bass drum. You can even get much more complicated with this book later on. But I'm just trying to simplify it so you know basically how it works. So for this first exercise, like I said, it's just all quarter notes. And basically for your other two limbs, like when you're doing the beat, see, this is just the beat right here. This is what your bass drum is doing, the four quarter notes. The snare is doing the four quarter notes at the same time. So you're doing unisons. And basically, what you want to do with your other two limbs is just pick something static to do. So I think a lot of people teach this. They do the hi hat on the 2 and 4. So it would be. And then I think probably eighth notes on your right hand, wherever you want to play them. So basically, it'll be. That's actually 16th notes. So that's the basics of it. I'm just going through this book for the first time myself, so bear with me if I'm making mistakes and stuff. But you kind of get just from that the basics of how it works. And then as you go through the book, the melody line will change. They'll throw in rests so that you're playing everything else static on your feet, your right hand, and your left foot, but the melody line will change. For the left hand, you'll have to pay attention to the rests and make sure when there's a rest, which would be right here, for instance, you don't hit on that first note of that measure. So the second one's basically you're omitting the first hit on the snare or the melody line and just hitting 2, 3, and 4, which is rest. rest on one, then two, three, four. So you won't hit on the one. Hopefully you can see that okay. This ain't the best camera. So that would sound like this. I usually start with when I'm doing static first, just to kind of lock it in. And basically, that's that's the basics of it. You can start changing around whatever you're doing for your static. You can start like doing like 16th notes on the ride or wherever you're playing those. You can do the hi hat on every count. You can do the bass drums faster or slower. You can change all that around. Basically, what you're trying to do is keep three of your limbs kind of like doing something static, and the melody line is going to be doing something different. So it builds independence for that limb, and then I like to practice this on both sides so that you're building independence all around your body instead of just one limb. That's basically what it is. I'm gonna be going through this book, so I'll make more videos when I get into the more complicated stuff. I'll probably be doing more complicated static patterns with those too. Well, thanks for watching. Hopefully that explains how to get started with this book. I would also suggest practicing with and without a metronome. If you practice without a metronome, you can gradually build your speed comfortably without having to worry about keeping with the metronome. And then you want to play with the metronome just so that you know that you have steady speed. A lot of times, actually, going back and playing slower to a metronome is really hard because you have to time yourself more accurately. So, that's basically it. Hopefully, it helped you guys out. Thank you for watching.